This is a tragedy for Canada. This is a tragedy for Oakville, and for the politicians in Ottawa. They better rethink this electrification plan. David Menzies for Rebel News at the Ford assembly plant in Oakville, Ontario. And you know, several decades ago, folks, Ford Motor Company had an advertising slogan that read, "There's a Ford in your future." But is there a future for Ford's Oakville assembly plant? We have some very dire news to report, folks. You see, this plant has been here since 1953. It has employed thousands and thousands of workers. It is an integral part of the Oakville economy. So why the question mark about its future? Well, last year, Ford announced that it was going to retool the plant to the tune of $1.8 billion to manufacture EV, electric vehicles. But what has Ford discovered in the meantime? Well, the EV experiment has been a fiscal disaster. For example, in the first quarter of this year alone, Ford has lost $132,000 US on every EV vehicle manufactured. And as far as quarter two of this year, Ford lost a staggering US $1.1 billion. So apparently there really is no future in electrification. Now, I reached out to former Liberal MP Dan McTeague, and Mr. McTeague has told me he's spoken to many people at Ford and the union, Unifor, and it looks like the assembly plant's future is in jeopardy. The most recent news goes back to last summer when Ford announced that the fossil fuel burning Ford F-250 pickup truck would be manufactured here. But Mr. McTeague told me that's a pipe dream, especially given what happened earlier this month with the election of U.S. President Donald Trump. As you know, Donald Trump wants to bring jobs back to America. And Mr. McTeague says it's almost a certainty that the F-250 jobs that were slated for Oakville, well, they're going to go to a swing state such as Pennsylvania or Michigan so that President Trump can make good on his promise. And it's just a shocking tale. As I've said for more than half a century, all sorts of Lincoln, Ford, Mercury automobiles have been manufactured here. And currently, what sources say, not only is there no activity in that giant assembly plant, it's essentially being used as a storage unit. Which brings me to the political aspect of this story, which is, does Justin Trudeau and his Liberals, along with Sellout Singh, really believe it is a good idea to invest tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars to build electric vehicles that nobody wants and very few can afford? This is our money going into white elephants, folks. We know that. Ford knows that. Look at its balance sheet. You know, building cars like the Mustang E-Mach and the Ford F-150 Lightning have been financial sinkholes. And yet somehow Trudeau, due to climate change and carbon virtue signaling, thinks we should get further into the hole by spending billions and giving that money to the likes of Stellantis, Volkswagen, General Motors. It is absolutely outrageous, and it is a fool's errand and a very expensive one indeed. Now, we did reach out to Ford to see if anyone could come on camera. Nobody was available. Maybe in the days ahead we can find out what Ford's plan is. But the idea of building the F-250 pickup either in 2026 or 2027 doesn't look like it's going to happen. In fact, it looks like they're going to shutter this factory. This is a tragedy for Canada. This is a tragedy for Oakville. And for the politicians in Ottawa, I would suggest they seriously rethink their electrification welfare plan, because clearly the people aren't buying what they're trying to sell. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. If it is indeed the case that Ford is going to shutter the Oakville assembly plant, what a tragic, sad story, all based on the pursuit of the electrification pipe dream, something that's never going to come to fruition. Please, folks, if you feel like we do, go to nogreenreset.com. That's nogreenreset.com. Sign the petition so that we can tell our federal politicians in charge of this fool's errand to stop spending billions of our dollars for, well, nothing but misery.